So hey, here is every review of a Jurassic World movie that I've done, almost every review of a Jurassic World movie that I have done as of 2026, because we haven't done a compilation upload in a while, basically, and the algorithm demands content, so here we go. Almost every review, I stress, because my Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom review was conducted for another channel, and as of yet, well, that channel's company no longer technically exists, so I'm not entirely sure if they still claim the rights to the video content that I produced for them. I actually don't have any real way of getting in touch with whoever, if there is someone who is running that channel, to find out if I can legally reclaim those clips in their entirety. So instead, I'll just show a tiny little snippet of that when we get to that, and see how that goes. Anyway, here is almost all of my Jurassic World reviews.
So here's my darkest movie geek confession. I don't consider the original Jurassic Park to be an unassailable classic. I recognize this doesn't make a ton of sense given my love of Spielberg, monster movies, science fiction, and above all else dinosaurs, but here we are. Oh, it's a great film, yards beyond what other filmmakers would have likely done with the same material at the time, as is to be expected of Steven Spielberg, and it deserves its place on the pedestal for its iconic set pieces and industry-changing effects work, no question about it. But measured on the long-term merits, it's a vaunted member of the 3-star Spielberg Club, standing proudly among Minority Report, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade if we're being honest, and Amistad, but only just there. I bring this up mainly to give you some context through which to process this review. If you're looking for someone who views the first movie as holy writ to tell you whether or not someone's gone and popped some Groucho glasses on Michelangelo's David, this ain't that. But if you'll settle for the opinion of someone who thinks the original is a great movie, but in all honesty is more of a 1 million years BC, when dinosaurs ruled the earth, King Kong kind of guy when it's time to get his dinosaur on, welcome aboard. In any case, Jurassic World feels like the sequel this franchise has been waiting for. It's clearly, blatantly in fact, aiming for Aliens territory, i.e. a bigger, faster, meatier, nastier extension of a more constrained original experience, trading slow build suspense for relentless action. A welcome idea, but followed perhaps a little too slavishly. Speed and efficiency are one thing, but here's a film that's in such a hurry to get to the good stuff that it almost forgets to have a first act. But to our story. Decades after the original Jurassic Park disaster, the InGen Corporation, and specifically John Hammond's island preserve of cloned dinosaurs, have been bought out by a flamboyant Indian billionaire who has realized the late park founder's dream of a fully functioning tourist destination, though his version is a little less nature preserve and a little more Busch Gardens and or SeaWorld. But he's ultimately yet another spare no expense eccentric who cares more about delighting visitors and the coolness of his dinosaurs than profits. Unfortunately, everyone else still cares about profits, and the new key to embiggening them is believed to be messing with dinosaur genes further to create bigger, scarier versions aimed at wooing a now jaded public. The prototype for this new venture is the Indominus Rex, a laboratory-engineered hybrid super dinosaur mutation whose creators realized too late turned out smart enough to escape from her pen and start a dino-on-dino murder spree that soon imperils the entire tourist-filled park. In particular, the young visiting nephews of head scientist Claire, Bryce Dallas Howard, a development that spells danger for her dogged determination at remaining what else, a frazzled, overscheduled, asexual workaholic who I assume InGen headhunted from an unfinished Sandra Bullock vehicle. Fortunately, it turns out that Jurassic World support staff also includes Chris Pratt as Owen Grady, who just so happens to be
Earth's greatest living human.
Effectively a set of Chuck Norris facts that fused and gained intelligence. Owen isn't simply an ex-Navy SEAL badass who lives a solitary life of tuning up his motorcycle outside his cool bachelor trailer in the park's wilderness and a studly nature/survival expert. He's also, yes really, a soulful animal lover who's managed to tame a pack of velociraptors pitbull rehabilitator style and scolds the Jurassic World bosses for not being respectful and friendly enough to all of his dinosaur friends. Meanwhile, nasty executive Vincent D'Onofrio and mad scientist B.D. Wong are scheming behind the scenes to use the crisis to advance their own new agenda, using Owen's raptor research to train dinosaurs to fight terrorists for the US Army. You know, in case you were wondering what Jurassic Park 5 was already planning to be about. But for now, that's our scenario. Indominus Rex, or IREX, get it, is on the rampage and it falls to Owen, Claire, and ultimately Owen's team of obedient but only just so raptor buddies to team up and save the day. Preferably at a pace that allows for just enough additional chaos to unfurl in the form of stampedes, sneak attacks, paramilitary battles, and a bravura set piece wherein all manner of winged dinosaurs set upon the tourists like pigeons at the Panera dumpster, all in service of a build-up to a climactic showdown that might just set the new gold standard for earnestly absurd fan service and blockbuster sequels. If I'm making this all sound a bit silly, well, that's because it is. Spectacularly silly. As though tweaking the noses of genre fans who demand every last franchise tumble down into gritty realism land was priority one note pinned to the screenwriter's monitor. Director Colin Trevorrow comes from a genre comedy background, having previously been best known for the quirky indie time machine comedy Safety Not Guaranteed, and while he keeps the production from tipping over into outright farce, it's clear from the get-go that he's bringing a lighter, more mischievous touch to things than Steven Spielberg or Joe Johnston did previously. The big action scenes happen mostly in brightly lit daytime, and there's a playfulness to hypothetically tense moments like the Indominus attack on a gyrosphere vehicle that looks, one would have to assume intentionally, like a mashup of the original's iconic T-Rex Jeep attack and a cat fumbling around with a hamster ball. There's a sly sense of self-awareness underpinning all of the proceedings, as scene after scene stages bigger, flashier, tackier versions of majestic staple sequences from the original films play out amid a story that's entirely about the ugly business of turning miracles into marketing opportunities. Unless you think that tonal dissonance is some kind of accident, one of the main secondary good guys is a tech support engineer who shows up to work in a vintage Jurassic Park logo shirt, keeps toy dinosaurs at his workstation, and grumbles about how much more legit the original park was. Now, I'm down for all of that. After all, the point of the original Jurassic Park was that you shouldn't build Jurassic Park, but the flip side to playing things so loose and fun for fun's sake is that you start to question what's a knowing wink and what's legitimately not working. Is Indominus not being quite as scary as she's meant to be, deliberate commentary on half-baked marketing schemes, or could the new monster have used a few more passes in the design phase? Are Howard's icy, flustered working girl and Pratt's Velociraptor Dundee routine so enthusiastically one-dimensional because Trevorrow is having fun with the archness of blockbuster stock types, or has something been lost in the writing? Like I said at the beginning, I respect and welcome a B-movie, which is what this is, regardless of how much they spent on it, that bends or breaks logic, realism, screenwriting rules, etc. into pretzels in order to justify the over-the-top dinosaur action. So I can hardly begrudge Jurassic World for leaping so enthusiastically into the same intentionally ridiculous Saturday morning cartoon miasma Pacific Rim mind to such great effect. This is a new-ish animal from the majestic slow burn that even Steven Spielberg was unable to hit twice, and taken on its own goofy, knowing terms, it's both a riot of a new production and just enough of a nostalgic callback that I can't not recommend it. It's just too much fun. See you around!
Okay, so as I said up front, my Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom review was produced for another channel back when that movie came out. As such, as far as I know, I do not necessarily have clearance to re-upload that video in its entirety to this channel. If and when someday I do reclaim that clearance, I will do so. Till then, I'm just going to show you this little opening stinger joke that was originally on the front of that one. Otherwise, I didn't hate Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. If nothing else, doing Jurassic World, but as an old dark house movie, was certainly an interesting approach. I don't know if it was entirely successful. Also don't know if trying to be super serious again with these movies, after going with like the exaggerated to the point of comedy stock character types with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard as the new protagonists, was necessarily a thing you can really go back to, you know, once you've made your new protagonists basically action figures. But yeah, here is the tiny little gag I put at the beginning of that one. Also, I'd like to remind everyone, if you enjoy the channel and what we do here, please like, subscribe, share. Also, if you like my channel, or if you like any channels on YouTube, your favorite creators, your favorite content producers, whatever you want to call us, we're all struggling, we're all hurting, and if you're liking our videos, sharing our videos, that's the best thing you can do for us. But if you're able to kick some coins in the can, we sure would appreciate it, because it is a nightmare out here for everyone. Thank you very much. And now back to the reviews. Okay, and time. Yeah. Now I am in Jurassic World 2 for about as long as Jeff Goldblum is. I like it when there are dinosaurs in it, and I like it less when there are not dinosaurs in it. It feels like there are enough parts when there are dinosaurs this time versus parts when there aren't dinosaurs this time. So even though it takes itself too seriously, like every other Jurassic Park, I liked it well enough. 6 out of 10. Yeah. What, do I gotta say something else? Yeah, we're trying a new look. What? Summer. Yeah, all right. I'm told I can't actually keep doing that, even if I want the channel to stay properly monetizable, so I will keep going. But gang, I don't really know how much else you want me to drop in about any given Jurassic World review at this point. This is the Spielberg franchise that reaffirmed once and for all that even Steven Spielberg has trouble following up Steven Spielberg movies, and the whole arc of this new trilogy got sidetracked by the pandemic and then the original new director getting pulled away ultimately to not make a Star Wars. And the results are kind of what you already knew they were gonna be. The fact is, even the original Jurassic Park was kind of thin on material in the first place. Great fucking movie, absolutely, don't get me wrong. But it was also totally a testament to how much you can wring out of a strong cast, great set piece direction, and a killer score when narratively you're working from a smartly, to be sure, pared down version of what was already past his prime Michael Crichton going through the Westworld motions again, but this time for biotech paranoia that the movie could only be bothered to present as mildly disappointed skepticism, because the square that this franchise has never managed to circle is that its underlying theme requires a logical pretext of cloning dinosaurs bad, where the on-screen presentation can't help but ever make the case for cloning dinosaurs friggin' awesome. At a certain point, most monster movies just learn to live with or enthusiastically embrace the fact that the monsters become the heroes, whether you want them to or not, but Jurassic Park has seemed to continuously be worried that if the brand steps outside the established things go bad at a dinosaur zoo because capitalism doesn't know how to science framework, it's gonna lose its sense of self somehow, so we've got a lot of jogging in place even before the self-referential overstuffed plus-size reboot of Jurassic Park about overstuffed plus-size reboot of Jurassic Park fourth installment Jurassic World, and then Fallen Kingdom finally saying fuck it, we're gonna blow up the island and now the movies have to take place somewhere else. And so now we've got Dominion, which starts out feeling like it wants to be the end in the most extreme possible sense, since returning Helmer Collins' subtlety Trevorrow drops a literal plague of locusts in as a plot driver, but ultimately it's more about just bringing closure to the human stories from the prior films, since Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are onto other things, and getting the original trilogy actors back in for a meetup and send-off as well, because every nostalgically beloved boomer actor from a movie millennials loved on VHS back in the day found out how well this went for the old people who came back for the Star Wars and Spider-Man cameos and said, well, fuck it, I'd like a new wing on my house too. I mean, shit, if Michael Keaton can be Batman again, Laura Dern sure as shit can show up and look slowly up into a crane shot a few more times. As a result, the film ends up feeling just a little bit more Rise of Skywalker than the studio probably would have preferred anyone to describe it as under the circumstances, playing out with one of those needlessly overcomplicated scripts where half the runtime is spent on explanations of why characters are just around to run into one another, because apparently only one series of movies is allowed to just knock that kind of setup out in Act 1 by having a cool guy show up and go, oh hey, there's a thing going on, get everyone from the previous movies together right straight here so we can do the thing. But yeah, so our convoluted setup to get it going this time, it feels a lot like it was supposed to be the two longer movies squished together, or one shorter movie that had to get stretched out when Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum agreed to come back, is that the world has tried to handle the global dinosaur outbreak from the end of the last movie by letting a mad science company run it, because hey, 6 times the charm, I guess, but also the mad science company this time used dinosaur research to make dinosaur locusts to control the global food supply, because sure, slightly larger bugs is a great antagonist for the finale of your dinosaur movie. I mean, I guess it could be in like the grim irony sense, but like, you know, a thing I've noticed with Trevorrow's movies is they all feel like Paul Verhoeven absurdist genre satires like RoboCop or Starship Troopers, but if they didn't have coherent points to make. Anyway, the locust conspiracy is being investigated by Sam Neill and Laura Dern from the old movies, but it also involves the kidnapping of Blue the Raptor's baby and the clone human girl from the last movie, in case you forgot that plot point existed. Really, there's no reason why all of this couldn't all just be shoved together. Like, they at one point find out that Jeff Goldblum is there just because the bad guys have had Ian Malcolm just hanging around as a celebrity, like they're collecting old Jurassic Park stuff, and that's almost a good ironic joke, but that also could have been the reason for the other old Jurassic Park people to be around, and that would have been like clever, and it would have shaved a whole hour out of the movie without having to do the stupid locust thing. Oh, and also BD Wong is also there, and the evil CEO in charge of things this time is Dodgson from the first movies again, but now he's aged into a bad parody of Tim Cook because they started making this before Elon went nuts and presumably became the new evil rich guy that villains like this will be weak spoofs of for a while. So like an interesting thing in a couple of months is that this will be the last movie preserved in amber where all the big tech bad guys had to be parodies of Apple instead of parodies of Tesla. You know, anyway, the best parts of this are the middle where the dinosaurs are being incorporated into car chases and underground black market shootouts and fights and motorcycle stunts and Mission Impossible shit because it's crazy and weird and not like anything they've done in the other 5 fucking movies. And then it gets less interesting when the things move to the bad guy facilities where they're doing just regular Jurassic Park stuff again, but you know, it's cool because there's new dinosaurs
dinosaurs and a sequence in a cave that's pretty fun. And even though the movie doesn't pretend like it can contrive a rational reason for a big three-way monster fight that caps up the finale, I mean, it's a three-way dinosaur fight. Does it really need to? Like I said, I wish this was better, but it's far from terrible. I like when there were dinosaurs. 6 out of 10, like I said. You know, how good does this need to be? Not that good, as it turns out.
I just want to put some numbers out in front here. Jurassic World Rebirth is now our 7th Jurassic Park franchise movie, the 4th one to have a subtitle if we count The Lost World, and now our 3rd sort of new story continuum, since we're only generally following off from the events of Jurassic World Dominion in the broadest foundational sense, and seem to be setting up with some new lead characters. At the very least, there's barely a passing reference and only tangential connection to the main figures from the original, and I don't think, unless I missed it, anybody from the second trilogy. And even though we do have mostly new people telling a mostly newish story this time, it's also the 4th installment in a row, starting with Jurassic World itself a decade ago, to try and hang a big background subtext meta-narrative around the dinosaurs themselves no longer being scary or interesting or impressive to people anymore because they've been back around long enough to just be a thing, maybe even kind of a nuisance. And this is both, of course, an indictment on the failings of humankind in a fickle ecological caretakers and bad scientists sense, but also it's meant to be a wink-wink, nudge-nudge metaphor for the long in the toothness of the Jurassic Park franchise itself, as in the movie going, yeah, we know, another one, huh? And Hollywood screenwriters and producers asking screenwriters to do this, I'm begging at this point. I need you to stop writing your subtext. I mean, really, stop writing movies like this in general, but really stop making this the go-to for your subtext. Stop writing the meta-narrative of your movies as an argument or clapback or even some attempt at dialogue with whiny film school brain douchebags on social media and assholes on YouTube like me, because the internet isn't real life. Because I've now watched 4 Jurassic Park / World movies where the running meta subtext was, it's a real bummer that everyone thinks the Jurassic movies got less good and no one cares about them now. And the problem isn't that self-aware or self-referential storytelling is bad so much as it's just bizarre to watch a movie do it when it's blatantly observably false and untrue. You see, the setup to Jurassic World Rebirth as it opens is that despite having been unleashed on the world in the previous film, near-future Earth's general climate has proven largely inhospitable to dinosaurs, and they've either started to die off or self-segregate to island and oceanic regions around the equator. So now the museums are defunding and the zoos are closing because the last specimens in captivity are aging. Literally, everyone is tired of Jurassic Park. Get it?
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
Except that's not true. In terms of audience response, where it counts, pretty much nobody is tired of Jurassic Park. The audience has never gotten sick of this. Every single one of these movies, even the ones people generally retroactively tend to think of as not that good, have been among the top grossing, most watched movies the year they came out, domestically and worldwide. Yes, even that last one you didn't like because it had too many characters and that goofy shit with the bugs or whatever, that was a billion-dollar smash hit, the 3rd biggest movie in its year of release and the 3rd movie post-COVID to get back to the 1 billion club. It's just bizarre to make the background radiation of your story this weird lament that people don't appreciate our movies anymore when everyone has always loved these movies to the tune of billions of dollars for decades. Anyway, Jurassic World Rebirth comes to us courtesy director Gareth Edwards, director of Monsters, the first MonsterVerse Godzilla, creator, and credited director of Star Wars Rogue One, but let's not get into that here. Basically, he's really good with human location CG integration and the guy you call when you've got an effects-heavy movie that needs to look like it cost a lot more than it does. And if you don't necessarily mind if the resulting movie is boring as all hell and also kind of preachy, because his movies are generally boring as all hell and also kind of preachy, unless someone gets brought in to do a fuck ton of reshoots and then a whole new spin-off show. Ahem. But on this one, he's been handed a script by David Koepp, who's got a very solid guy who knows how to put a story together resume and was working from a new story setup laid down by Steven Spielberg himself. So, okay, if the writer can write and the director can direct and there's producers keeping everyone on task at their job, that's pretty much how studio filmmaking and a project like this is supposed to work, even if they are still cranking off this irritating boo-hoo, somebody somewhere said our dinosaur movies aren't as good anymore, pity party subtext in the background, and yeah, they pretty much still are. That doesn't have to be a deal breaker. And, Well, it's not. Yeah, I mostly enjoyed it. I wouldn't call it a classic, but considering how much I generally dislike every other movie this specific director has made, and pretty much went into this one preloaded for, okay, let's see if Bizarro World Neil Blomkamp here can make dinosaurs as boring as he made killer robots, but shockingly, Jurassic World Rebirth is a very solid people getting chased by monsters in the jungle movie, and that's basically the ask for one of these, so maybe call it a lowered expectations effect, but I came away really entertained. The new mandate appears to be the last trilogy was Jurassic Park but bigger, so now do Jurassic Park but lean, i.e. cut the scope back to monster chases and basically nothing else, get some new people, find an excuse for them to be where the dinosaurs are, and that's a movie. So they've gone with the reliable jungle adventure setup of A Hunt for the Cure, wherein some scientists think they can cure heart disease if they can get blood samples from 3 biggest dinosaurs ever, one from land, one that swims, and one that flies. I don't know how that makes a scientific difference, but shut up. A team of scientists and mercenaries have to go to one of the illegal to trespass dinosaur islands to do this. On the way they pick up a family with kids whose boat was attacked by the water dinosaur, so they can be more sympathetic characters to also get chased around. There are complications and separations. They have a limited window to do what they have to on the island and make it to where they're going to get extracted. Somebody on the team is a corporate bad guy and obviously can't be trusted. Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali are the mercenaries, and they've got moody war backstories. There's a science guy who likes dinosaurs, and he's the audience surrogate, whose reactions tell us when things are supposed to be impressive if for some reason you can't hear the John Williams music doing that. There's a little kid who finds a baby dinosaur pet, a teenager who seems like he's kind of a dipshit, but maybe he'll get to prove himself. Like, you've seen every one of these characters before, but stock types become stock types because they work, and they're all pretty well utilized here. It's mechanical, but the machine is running. The fancy new gimmick is that the island we're on is supposedly where the Jurassic scientists were keeping the failed experiments from when they were doing mutant crossbreeding for the World movies, so we get some new straight-up monsters that now barely resemble actual dinosaurs, like raptors with wings, and the new Act 3 big bad, the D-Rex, which are both fairly absurd looking, but also pretty fun, and like everything else, are used about exactly as much as they need to be. Every cool monster gets pretty much one big scene to itself, and then they move on. The whole movie is pretty much like that. There's not a lot of depth here, but there's also not much bloat or fat. Yeah, I was still pretty annoyed by the meta stuff, but that's an annoyance with the industry in general, and it doesn't really intrude on the actual movie once the amusingly video game-like water boss, land boss, air boss get to the checkpoint plot gets going, and everyone feels realistically committed to their guy in a monster movie playset character alignment. It's efficient, which sounds like backhanded praise, and maybe sort of is, but it's also maybe the best compliment you should expect for part 7 of a literal theme park series. So yeah, 7 out of 10. I'm surprised as you are. Maybe we finally figured out what Edwards is supposed to have been doing this whole time.